Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people truly believe the world revolves around them and that nobody else matters. And in this episode, guys, we've got it all. We've got entitled grandmas, entitled family members, thieving Karens, crazy Karens. Oh boy, oh boy. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories. Hit subscribe if you haven't. And as always, you can send or link your stories to this email right here. So I used to work as a lifeguard at an indoor pool. The boss always made the schedule last minute, and she was just an awful person to work with. She was an entitled grown woman who would often cause drama, mostly between her and the teenage staff. One day, my grandpa passed away. He was my best friend. She was well aware he was sick, and when I showed up for my shift that day, I told her what happened and told her that I'd be about 15 minutes late on Wednesday due to a meeting. But the person I was relieving had agreed to stay and cover until I got there. Now, she didn't like that, and she said, personal reasons aside, you should learn to show up no matter what. So Wednesday, we scheduled a memorial for Friday. My boss had known he'd passed, knew a funeral was coming, so I told her as soon as possible what the plan was. Now, it wasn't even that I couldn't come for my whole shift. I told her that I could come an hour late to my shift. It's also important to note that she was a certified guard. In these instances, it was her job to take the stand during our rotations. When I told her the plan for Friday, she said no. She told me that I would be fired if I was late, and in her exact words, she said, "Your family should have taken your work schedule into account." And I'm thinking, lady, I make minimum wage. Out of everyone, they're least concerned about me getting to work. I then explained that it was impossible to move, and pointed out in the handbook that I was given the right to shift my schedule. And her response was, "Well, it just won't work for me on Friday because I have a hair appointment. Do you want me to miss my hair appointment?" Of course, hearing that, I was baffled. She was blowing off her full-time management job to get her hair cut, and then demanding that I skip my grandfather's funeral so she wouldn't have to cover for me. Unfortunately, I couldn't think of anything to say, so I just started crying and mumbled that I probably wasn't the best person to monitor lives that day, and then walked out. So yeah, for those of you who are wondering if OP ever returned, they didn't, okay? They quit right after that shift. And honestly, I'd say good for them. Screw that crappy manager. Guys, it was an hour. The woman couldn't cover an hour of an employee's shift so they could attend a family funeral. And the fact that she said, "You want me to miss my hair appointment?" really shows how horrible of a person she was. Like, you can get a haircut anytime, lady. People usually only have a funeral once. So this person comments, "I feel really bad for you. Some people need to be put down like a dog." And the response to this was, "Dogs are put to sleep very peacefully. She does not deserve that." Oof, guys. So I went to CVS today to get a few things, and I'm not joking. For at least 5 minutes, this old woman was berating the CVS worker about the pharmacy closing early. It kept going in circles. The poor supervisor was trying to explain that it's not her fault, and this old lady was getting more mad by the second. She also had one of those gross, crusty white dogs that wouldn't shut the F up. Now, I'm working on not being shy, so I stood by just in case I felt like I should intervene. And of course, the Karen began screaming at this poor girl. So I step up and say, "Hey, you don't have to be such an a-hole to her. She isn't paid enough to deal with that." And that's when all hell broke loose. Now, I genuinely can't remember everything the lady said, but she was spewing about freedom of speech, how she can do whatever the heck she wants or say whatever she wants, and that nobody can stop her. And that's when I told her if she believes in freedom of speech, then I have every right to tell her that she's acting like a bitch and being a complete a-hole to minimum wage workers. I eventually buy enough time for the CVS worker to escape. As I'm leaving the store, the woman's behind me. I figure I could give her a second chance, so I hold the door open for her. I then ask her what her dog's name is, genuinely trying to be nice, and she says, "Don't talk to me. That's assault." The woman then follows me on my walk home, trying to run me off the sidewalk by getting too close. I ignore her, and the whole way she's calling me a narcissist and saying a bunch of other crazy things. It then gets worse when she pulls out her phone and starts taking videos or pictures of me, saying that this is what the youth are like nowadays. So disrespectful. So that's when I decide to text my best friend and roommate that I'm being followed. The woman left before my roommate got there, but as I walked into my apartment building, she said, "I'll see you tomorrow." Like, what a crazy woman. Yeah, guys, so a little word of advice. Whether you're being followed on foot or in a vehicle, never, ever, ever go home. Never let a crazy person know where you live. Guys, I can't believe the woman followed OP to her place and the whole time was trying to push them off the road and harassing her the whole way through. I'm just saying I would have gotten sick of that pretty fast and just booked it away from the lady. Guys, the comments section of this post are filled with people just sharing their experiences. And this person writes, I once had a lunatic follow me. So I called my friend to see if he was home. I then explained to him what was happening, and he was waiting outside of his house with a 12-gauge shotgun and his dog. That's half the size of a horse. When I got home, the dude kept driving. Okay, so let's begin with this. I make decent money, but I'm no way rich. I like to take my family on vacation, and I've been stymied for the last couple of years. So this summer, I decided to do something that I thought was pretty great. I paid for my family to go to Disneyland. Now, not just my wife and kids, but also my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my wife's brother, his wife, and their kids. So 10 people total. I also rented a McMansion with a pool and everything. I also bought all the groceries and rented a truck, so I could ferry the luggage, and in case of emergency, we would have a vehicle. My kids are in their teens, and my nephews are a few years younger. My immediate family did not require any help with the kids, and realistically, neither did my in-laws. So we get to the house, and that's when the problem starts. So the room that I picked out for my wife and I, it's obviously the nicest. My father-in-law and mother-in-law chose to stay in the pool house. This left 5 other bedrooms for 6 people. My brother-in-law, sister-in-law, my 2 kids, and their 2 kids. Sounds simple, right? Not so fast. That's when my brother and sister-in-law complained, why did I get the best room? They hadn't had some nice alone time in years. And why did my kid pick the room with the ensuite? They also asked why one room had a bigger TV than the other rooms, why we're having to cook some meals, and why don't I just order every meal for them? That's when I went to my room and went to sleep. So the first day is more BS. They ask questions like why we have to wait in lines, why don't we get a tour guide that lets us skip lines, and that's when my wife starts joining in. She said we shouldn't be cooking at the house because it wasn't fair to her and sister-in-law to be stuck with the cleaning. Now my kids always help, and I do too. Brother-in-law, however, sits on his ass though. My in-laws decide to join the fun at the end of the day. They didn't want to wait for Uber, and they asked if they could take the truck and meet us back at the house, and my wife said to let them. That's when I got sick of it. I ordered pizza for everybody, and while they were gorging themselves, I called an Uber and went to a hotel that I'm a shiny member of. I then used my points to book a nice suite for the next 6 days. After that, I texted my wife and told her that I would catch up with everyone in the morning at the park. My wife is mad that I left her to deal with those ungrateful, entitled, and greedy people. And I'm sitting by the pool enjoying a gin and tonic and writing this because I left the park after I saw the new superhero stuff at the park. Her brother and sister-in-law are now bugging her to give up the nice room since she's alone. Now she's not on their side. Too late. So am I the a-hole for leaving them to sort out their own stuff after I went out of my way to do something nice and they crapped all over it? OP is definitely not the a-hole at all. He's not doing anything that could make him the a-hole. Like, the guy just chose to take a vacation away from his entitled relatives, and since he paid for everything for them, I think he's allowed to do that. And in my opinion, he should have warned his wife and at least brought her along though, right? But man, talk about ungrateful people. So OP does come back with an update that says, my wife went beast mode. She's spending the night with me at the hotel after she found out, and I'm back at the house tomorrow. My brother-in-law's been told that if he even looks at our room, he and his wife are going to a motel. In-laws were told to Uber wherever they wanted, and we're still taking everyone out for one dinner, but all other meals not made in the house are pay your own way. And brother-in-law's responsible for cleaning up after meals. Honestly, I didn't think she had that in her. Alright, so for starters, I own a pretty old truck that was given to me by my dad before he passed away. It's not the best truck on the road, but it gets the job done. Now, I don't know if this is entitlement or if I just encountered a crazy woman or a mix of both, but here goes. This story also might sound really outlandish and unbelievable, but I assure you, this happened to me 100%. Anyways, I live in Philadelphia, a city where crime is really bad right now. Seriously, I think we're ranked in top 10 cities with the highest, most violent crimes right now. I also live in a pretty bad area of the city, which doesn't make things better. Now living here, I'm not as concerned as some people are about getting robbed or approached when the sun starts to set because I'm a bigger guy, and generally I get left alone. I also try not to leave my house too late at night to prevent things from happening. But on this day, I had to run to the store to grab some smokes as, I'm highly addicted, and no smokes means that I literally cannot function. Don't judge. Anyways, I run to the local convenience store, grab snacks, smokes, whatever have you, and on my way out, I see the woman, the Karen of the story. The woman had forced open the window of my canopy on the truck, and she was trying to wiggle her way in. Now I found that odd because I never ever have anything valuable in my truck, which is rule number 1 for not getting robbed. The woman didn't seem to notice me until I start shouting, "Hey, excuse me, what are you doing?" The woman was older, but she didn't look homeless. She was actually pretty well kept. She looked to be in her late 50s. That's when the woman jumped back like lightning struck, and she quickly starts explaining that she had locked her keys out of her truck and she was trying to find a way to climb inside to open the doors. The woman literally said to me, "Oh, you shouldn't sneak up on people like that though. You almost gave me a heart attack. Do you think you can help me get the door to my truck open? I seem to have locked my keys in there." Now at this point, I start getting nervous as I've never been in a situation like this before. And seeing the news and hearing the stories, you never know what someone's capable of doing. The woman repeats, "I was just trying to get in my truck. I locked my keys inside by mistake and I can't get in. Can you help me get in?" So at this point, I think she's trying to steal my truck or something, so I say, lady, that's not your truck." Now, I could tell the woman wasn't in her right mind because she flipped like a switch on me when I said that, and she starts screaming, "Yes, it is. I just got it. It's my damn truck. I bought it today. Why won't you believe me?" At this point, I tried to de-escalate the situation by unlocking my doors with my key and telling her that it's actually mine. And this is when the woman literally goes bonkers. She runs up to me and starts pushing me and slapping me, and she demands that I hand my keys over to her and starts screaming that I'm stealing her truck. I wasn't going to entertain her, so I pushed her aside, to which she fell and she starts screaming that I'm trying to murder her, and I just unlocked my doors and got inside my truck. That's when the woman screamed that she had hundreds of thousands of dollars in her bank account, and that she can buy my truck from me right now. She also screamed that she was a woman, and I wasn't treating women how they should be treated, and that every man in her life has always given her what she wanted because they can't resist the you-know-what between her legs. And if I gave her a minute to show me what it's like, that I'd hand over my truck. I did my best to just ignore her and got into my truck and drove off as she was screaming that 911 will be called, and she has a picture of what I look like, and she's gonna call the police on me. The woman then starts picking up rocks to throw at my truck, and honestly, I just drove home without looking back because even if I chose to call police, the police will take hours to respond to calls, and I just couldn't be bothered to waste any more time. The whole encounter maybe took a few minutes max, and this is the last time I'm leaving my house after dark. I also have a few dents on my dad's truck now thanks to Crazy, and I'm also a little sad that my addiction to smokes caused my dad's truck to get rocks thrown at it. I hope your listeners will enjoy this tale. I just found it funny how she got really entitled and said she's always been given everything in her life due to her little kitty cat downstairs. I thought that was too funny to not share. Yeah guys, I don't even know what to say to this. I think it's more sad than anything that OP encountered someone who wasn't in their right mind. And guys, I don't live in Philadelphia, and I personally don't know anyone who does, so I can't say anything about it. But from what I've heard and read, it's not going great there right now. And Jason, thank you so much for sending me this email. And if you're listening, I hope you stay safe out there, and listen man, buy smokes during the day. I hope everybody stays safe out there. I've only been lucid to the fact that my mom is an entitled narcissist and manipulator for a few months now, because she's always controlled what I could think or say my whole childhood. When I started dating my boyfriend, I moved out of her house and slowly started to see from an outside perspective her true colors. So here is where my entitled mother got a little overboard. My mom hates when things don't go her way. I think one of the craziest things about my mom is the time she tried to steal a cat from 4 children she doesn't know because, quote, she just loves the cat. So there was this cat named Simba, and it was this really sweet, fat, and playful indoor-outdoor cat. He happened to show up to my mom's house a few months ago, and she gave him some canned food. And he's been coming back multiple times after that, and staying for hours at a time. My mom wound up putting a collar and a tag on him, and she gets a call from a man saying that she can't collar his cat because it's not her cat. It's his and his 4 kids' cat. Now, of course, my mom didn't care. She already decided that Simba just had to be hers. We don't know anything about the people who called other than the man's first name and that he has 4 kids. and that they have a cat. Beyond that, it's impossible to make any judgment calls. So my mom kept putting collars and tags on him, and Simba's family kept taking them off and putting theirs on. That's when my mom tried to find a way to say that the cat's being abused. My mom says that because he's a rough player, and that means that he must be abused by the kids. The man has called my mom a few times, calling her a bitch and an a-hole and stuff. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but if someone kept trying to steal my cat, I'd probably have a few choice words for them too. I've also had cats in the past who have been abused before I got them, and in no way does Simba act like an abused cat. He's the sweetest, friendliest cat that I've ever met. He just doesn't like to be picked up, and he'll fuss about it a bit. My mom has resorted to putting a dog collar with a tag on him, and had a stitch put into the collar, so he wouldn't be able to slip it off. I tried telling her cat collars are made to break away for a reason, but she didn't care. Now, my mom was super crazy when it came to Simba this Christmas. On Christmas Eve day, the man called and said that he's gonna make the cat an indoor cat because he's sick of her trying to collar his cat. He says when Simba disappears, his children get super worried, but my mom's convinced the kids don't care since the man has never put up a lost cat poster or anything. My mom was crying all night long about losing Simba, and saying, "Oh, woe is me for not being able to see that cat ever again. The cat that I stole from children." My mom tried telling the man that nobody owns cats, that cats choose where to go, and he said his cat is microchipped. My mom now wants to call the vet and make them change the microchip information for him. The funny thing is, she doesn't think you can steal a cat, but says you can steal a dog because in the eyes of American law, dogs are considered property but cats aren't, and that cats haven't been domesticated as long as dogs have been, so they're still, quote, wild animals. So a guy in my city had his lawn inflatable stolen that night, and my mom is hoping he can get them back and that the thief is caught. Yet in the same breath, she justifies that stealing someone's cat is okay. My mom also already has 2 cats that she doesn't give any attention to just because they're not cuddly. She just wants to steal a cat without even first loving the 2 she already has. I just don't know where my mom gets off with her outrageous hypocrisy sometimes. Yeah, I don't know why the guy didn't get police involved. Like, if I had a cat and my cat kept coming home with random collars on it, and I know that the people putting the collar on my cat wants to steal my cat, I think I'd be calling police. Opie's mom needs to learn that there are consequences for her actions. So a little background, I have an EBT card, also known as SNAP or food stamps because I'm disabled. So back in 2017, when I moved into an apartment building in town, I'm walking back from a drugstore, and this lady, a tenant of the same building, stops me. She then starts giving me this sob story about how her oldest son just died, and he was the one buying groceries, and she hasn't eaten in 3 days. Now the woman looked to be in her early 80s, and while it did look like a stiff breeze could tip her, she didn't look malnourished. Anyways, I felt bad, and I'm a sucker, so I offered to walk her to the drugstore, where they carry frozen food and snacks, or for her to give me a short shopping list. I'm thinking, no problem, I can just eat smaller portions for a month. Now clearly, it was a big problem for her because she declines my offer and keeps asking me to give her my EBT card and PIN number. I tried to tell her that I can go with her, and that's met with, no, I like to be independent, give me your card. Me saying, if you give me a list is met with, this is the only time I leave my apartment, give me your card. And when I say I'm not giving you my card, that's met with, word for word, a repeat of her whole spiel about how she's starving, she needs food, and her kids are dead. Now I am a giving person, well, I used to be, but I'm not giving someone who stopped me in the streets my sole means to afford food every month. The woman then follows me back towards the apartment building, wailing about how she needs food so badly, only to stop following when we actually get to the parking lot. A week later, a different fellow tenant is meeting us. They made cookies to welcome me and my roommate. Nice lady. I mentioned the crazy lady demanding my EBT card, and this tenant, without even blinking, replies, she tries that with every new tenant. Half the building has restraining orders against her, because she demands debit and credit cards from everyone. She hasn't been removed because she's in her 80s and her kids won't talk to her, and neither one of them is dead. Oh my goodness, an 80-year-old entitled woman preying on tenants in her apartment building. And the fact that half the building has restraining orders on her, I don't even know what to say. That's a little bit too much. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r slash entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'll link it right here. It's an r slash I don't work here lady, where Karen orders OP's husband to be her taxi, and it doesn't end well, guys. It's such a funny story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.